Just checking to make sure you can hear me.
Yep.
All right, we are live on YouTube and we are recording.
How's it going, Vince?
Yeah.
How's it going
Not too bad. Just
since this morning?
taking a deep sigh before we get rolling here.
Well, this is an end to a day. I don't know if that's a high note or a low note, but
I'm
it's an end
sorry.
to the day. It's an end to the day. I don't know if that makes it a high note or a low note, but one
Feels
way
like
or
the
another.
day's just getting started.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like looking at this, it's like, okay, we got 3.5 hours to go.
yeah. Yeah. Be a lengthy one tonight.
Yeah. Good. Some stuff needs to get done, so.
Yeah.
Mark, Michelle, Matt, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I always say, how
Doing
come
well.
after a 3-day weekend do we always have a city council meeting?
Yeah. For a number of years in Farmington, I tried to convince them to schedule Tuesday night meetings. Get the long holiday weekend, don't have to have interruptions with Labor Day or Memorial Day. Aren't going to miss the start of the national championship basketball game or football game. And, you know, it served all of the interests that I have. And so it just never came to fruition.
So I'm not sure if Paula's going to be here right at 6.
Well,
I'm not sure that she's not, but I'm not clear from her message that she will be. So
I saw her today.
yeah, I know she said she just sent me a text and it's not clear.
Have you heard anything? I mean, you want me to walk across and check out the mayor? Because I don't see him on as,
I don't see him in the waiting room.
no.
I I haven't seen anything from, let's see. So Paula said she's here now, but I don't see her.
I'll leave and go start the closed session, see if anybody's in that meeting, just in
So
case.
Paula had sent me a picture and she may be waiting in the closed session.
Okay.
We gotta do the election commission first before we,
Before we go into special meeting and then into closed session, yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably why we can't see her, but the mayor I'm unclear on.
Mayor said he's having a little trouble, should be there in a minute though.
Okay. All right, while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and put up the agenda for the election commission.
Good evening, all. Sorry for the delay. Had a little complication zooming in. I'm going to try to catch up here. Clerk Lavoy, are all present?
No, Paula's having trouble getting on. I just made you co-host so that you can help me in case you see her in the waiting room.
Okay.
And also you can just
I do not see her at this time.
I don't either.
Or Kelly.
Councilwoman Vining is excused this evening on a matter.
Do you want to go ahead and
Yes.
get started?
Yes, why don't we at this time call the Elections Commission meeting to order, and clerk, please call roll for commissioners.
Commissioner Germaini?
Present, City of
Lamore?
Monroe.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Lamore?
Present, City of Monroe.
Felder?
present, City of Monroe.
Whitman? Angeli?
Present, City of Monroe.
Commissioner Vining is excused. Commissioner Clark?
Present within the city of Monroe.
And Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, I'm here in the city of Monroe. The first item, so this is in preparation for those in the audience for the May 4th, 2021 special election. We need to approve the minutes from October 5th and October 27th of 2020. So I need a motion and we have to do a roll call.
Your Honor,
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the Election Commission meeting on October 5th, 2020, and the public accuracy test held on October 27th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Germaini, to approve the minutes and public accuracy test. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini?
Yes,
Lamore?
Yes,
Felder?
Yes,
Whitman? Angeli?
yes,
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
The next items are all under commission action, and we need to to do the motion to approve the resolution delegating duties to the clerk so I can carry out the election.
Your Honor,
Yes, Councilman, or Commissioner Moore, go ahead.
yes, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution delegating election duties to the clerk treasurer.
I will second.
Okay, see, there's a motion by Moore, supported by Jermaine. Call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes,
Felder,
Yes,
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
One second, Mr. Sell, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I got a text from Commissioner Whitman. She said she's waiting for the host. So is she over at the closed session?
She was. I went over there and told her she was in the wrong one. So
All right.
must be
When I
back.
finish this meeting, I'll try to resolve her issue.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Next is the absentee voter counting board. We're going to set that for 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 4th, and we're only having one absentee counting board for this election. So I need a motion to approve that. And it's on the agenda.
Your Honor,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
make a motion to approve the absentee voter counting board to report at 9 a.m. Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 to the council chambers at City Hall.
second.
Motion by Commissioner Moore, supported by Commissioner Felder. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes,
Felder,
Yes,
Angeli,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Okay. Next is the election inspector appointments, and much like in November, we're having some issue between COVID and some other things that are going on. So I do still have some holes in the election inspector appointments, but I did include the list of who I did have, and I will report that to the parties as necessary, and we will continue, we'll address that issue in a later item on the agenda. So if we could just have a motion to approve the election appointment list that you've received to date.
Your Honor,
Angeli moves to appoint the election inspector assignment list.
second.
There's a Commissioner Eckline, supported by Commissioner Felder. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes,
Felder,
yes,
Angeli,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
All right, this one is going to take a second or two to do because it's for the public accuracy test. We would like to hold it on Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, a week before the election, and we will need to know the names of who would like to participate from the commission and the time that you all agree to, and we need a quorum. So we can have it as early as 8 o'clock. Sometimes 10 o'clock has worked better in the past. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Clark to help me sort this out.
Sure, and I'll start by saying I'm available on that, the date of the 27th, anytime in the morning, even afternoon, but I'm available, so I'll start and say I'm available, see if there's others that are.
I am available
Okay,
anytime.
All right.
I'm available as well.
I'm
Okay.
available, but probably not until after 9. I gotta drop my son off at daycare.
Okay.
so you're
Um,
looking for 3, is that correct? Or 4?
We need a quorum.
Oh, so that's 4 right there. So why don't we start with that? We'll try to meet Commissioner Felder's time frame after 9 a.m. And then we can adjust as we go. At least we have the 4 to start with. And if there's others that commissioners that are available, I'll just have them go direct with you, and then we'll move forward.
And I think 9:30 would be acceptable. It would work for Commissioner Felder, and it really, there are 2 items on the ballot, so it will move very, very quickly.
Okay. So you need the names.
Your Honor, is the meeting going to be held in person, or is it going to be held via Zoom?
It will, well, it would still qualify for Zoom under the current state that we're operating under.
Okay.
So I think I probably will, we
Yeah.
may want to, by then we'll have made our decision if we're going to be continuing, correct? Under Zoom?
Sure. I think what we do is because for the posting is we start with that, but we can obviously expand to an in-person if it gets to that as well. But knowing that we start with Zoom and the commissioners that are available. And at this point, I have Clark, Lamore, Germaini, and Felder. And I think you have a 9:30 a.m. start. I'll make sure that meets with the needs of the floor, does with me. And then we can adjust if we need to.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else, Clerk?
No, so we just need a motion for that day and time.
Okay. Look for a motion.
Your Honor, make a motion to hold a public accuracy test for May 4th, 2021 election on Tuesday, April 27th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. with the test to be conducted by the following election commissioners, which are listed on a sheet.
Support.
Okay, motion by Councilman or Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder for the public accuracy test on April 27th as stated, and will be posted for Zoom, and we can adjust as we go. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman, I'm sorry, Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
All right, and then finally, I mentioned this earlier. We are still having some issues and some unpredictability with the election inspector appointments. So I'm asking, as we did in November, that you delegate the authority as the election commission to me as the clerk to continue to make appointments as needed up through election day. So I
That's
just
fine.
need a
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution delegating authority to the clerk treasurer to make appointments for election inspectors for the May 4th, 2021 election.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ekalani, supported by Commissioner Lamore for the as stated for the clerk to make the appointments. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Okay. I have no comments.
Any commissioner comments? I'm just gonna say this. I know it goes rapidly for those that are attending. It's not that we're not prepared for this elections commission. It's pretty straightforward, but we've done this in the past in this fashion. And it does require individual motions as the clerk has researched and found out. So the information was provided to the council and is public as well when you talk about those delegates and the authorities. And if there's any questions, please feel free to contact the clerk treasurer's office.
And just to add on to that, it really is, it's a check, double check, but it really, by the time we get to this point, the clerk has had to do most of the duties in order to fulfill the election and really fulfill the job mandated to me. So it's a little bit of the law hasn't quite caught up with the implementation of elections.
Right.
So anyway, but if there are, I guess the next would be any other commissioner comments or citizen comments.
I don't think there's any commissioner comments. I'll ask if there's any.
I do have a brief
citizen
comment, Your Honor. if I
Oh, I'm
may.
sorry. Go ahead. Commissioner Felder.
Germane to the election. I know that we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and we had, record turnout and record AV turnout specifically last election. I was wondering if the clerk had any ideas as to what our AV ballots were looking like this year, and if the requests were outnumbering previous May elections.
No, it's we had to send 5,000 absentee applications because that's how many we now have on the permanent absentee list, which is a significant increase. But overall, we've only seen a slight uptick in absentee applications. We're really, right now it's shaping up to be a regular May election in terms of size.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for the record, I see that Commissioner Whitman has joined us. We're
see
getting
that.
final comments before the citizens' comments. And I know that you can touch base with Commissioner Whitman regarding the items approved if needed, and she can obviously catch as well.
Yes, I will.
Any
Your
comments?
Honor, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All
Motion.
right, Commissioner Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Ike Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone.
So this item is concluded, and we have the need to go, well, we're concluded. Our next item is request from the administration regarding, or from council for a city council special meeting. There is a separate Zoom for that, but we need to, I guess, make a motion to go to that.
Your Honor, do we need to call the special meeting to order first before we go
Yeah.
into close?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. So at this time, we'll call the city council special meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Present, City of Monroe.
Lamore,
Here, City of Monroe.
Felder,
Present, City of Monroe.
Whitman,
Here, City of Monroe.
Ike Angeli,
Present, City of Monroe.
Vining is excused,
Thank you.
and Mayor Clark.
Present, City of Monroe, and we'll need a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion. We go into a closed executive session for the purpose of land acquisition.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Klein, supported by Councilman Lamore, to go into executive closed session regarding land acquisition. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Ike Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, we'll see you over there.
All right, and I'll be keeping this meeting open, so use the same link to get back to it.
Very good.
Thank you.
So which link do I use now?
The one you were using before. I think you were going into the closed section.
We'll see.
Okay,
I'll find out.
all right. That's what Ed thought you were doing. You're good, John?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting close to getting everybody back. We'll take a second here. Clerk Treasurer.
Hello.
Obviously, we'll proceed through our appropriate back into sessions and that here in a second. Waiting for one more.
All right.
We want to make sure we have enough time as well, so.
So are we going back into open session and then adjourning and not doing the work session, correct?
But we'll procedurally go through the opening and closing, and Mr. Pastu will probably have a comment on that, so.
All right. I do have to watch for people coming on about 7:29, so for the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, and so I'm gonna give it, I'll give, we're all here. So at this point, a motion, please.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go back into the work session.
Second.
Motion by Councilman, supported by Councilman Lamore to go back into our regular special meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, and a motion to adjourn, please.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the special meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Angeli, supported by Councilman Felder to adjourn the special meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, so we'll close our special meeting for, we have posted our work session. I know time is running short, but this time I'm going to open and start the city council work session. Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councilperson Germaine,
Here, City of Monroe,
Lamore,
Present, City of Monroe.
Felder,
Present, City of Monroe.
Whitman,
Present, City of Monroe.
Angeli,
President, City of Monroe.
Vining is excused. Mayor Clark.
President in the city of Monroe.
Oops,
I'm sorry, clerk, please.
No, we're fine. We're good.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to go fast. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so we have the work session posted. So Mr. Pastu, obviously time-wise, we're not going to be having a long discussion. So if there's any review or any comment you have, if not, I think we're going to move forward and close the work session and schedule for a further date unless you have a comment.
Oh, Vince, you're muted.
You're muted, Vince. There you go.
I think that makes sense for us to come back at another work session for this discussion. It took longer than I thought.
Okay, so at this time, unless there's any other thoughts from council, I guess we don't need a motion to adjourn the work session. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll give the opportunity for any comments from council on the work session. I see none. At this time, I'm going to close the work session. And we have about 3 minutes. It will come back into session for the start of the regular city council meeting. And just be mindful of your, if you have microphones and videos, you have about a 2-minute break here. So I will see everybody in a few minutes.
Vince, should Jeff Green be a panelist?
I'm sorry, he doesn't need to be a panelist
Okay.
now. I
All
was
right.
going to have him as a panelist during the work session. So,
All right. Just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
yeah.
Welcome, Terry.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, we'll get started in a few minutes.
Okay, no problem.
Michelle, as we get started here, I know that Terry has the is not muted, so conversation may come through just for as we move forward.
Sure. Terry, just a reminder, you may want to mute your microphone. All right. And Mary, you're still co-host, correct? You're still on there as co-host. You can still see the attendees.
I believe so, but I had to put the password in to come in, so I'm not sure that I am.
Let me double check. Nope, you're not, but I'm going to make you a co-host again.
Okay.
Thanks for telling me that, because I want to make sure that you're co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have Terry and David have joined us, and Mike Smith did contact me prior to the meeting and is planning to attend. He was just in another meeting that was causing a little bit of conflict.
Okay.
Just so that you're aware for that item.
Yes. So clerk, I know we're about that time. I want to make sure you're ready, and then we'll get started when you're ready to go.
I am. Let me just check the waiting room one moment. Yep, I think we are ready. So whenever you are, I can call the roll.
Okay, at this time, we'll call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Present, City of Monroe.
Wilmore,
Present, City of Monroe.
Felder,
Present, City of Monroe.
Whitman,
Present, City of Monroe.
Angeli,
Present, City of Monroe.
Mayor Clark.
Present, City of Monroe, and Councilwoman Viney is excused.
Thank you.
Clerk.
Clerk Treasurer, City of Monroe.
Okay, at this time, next item, please.
The next item is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. So, God are working together, give us wisdom to make the right decisions, your understanding to listen to each other, and your compassion to promote the peace and welfare of the residents of this community.
Thank you. And if you would join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States
States of America, and to the republic
Which
for which it stands, one nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item are any amendments to the agenda.
We'll look for the administration first. Vince, were there any amendments and then to council?
Your Honor, we'd like to have item 3084, which is the front door repairs at the River Raisin National Battle Park Education Center, be brought under council action. There's a correction to a dollar amount that we would bring up at that time.
Okay, so council, as we get to that for the council, the consent agenda, that request by administration to have that pulled for discussion, and we can do that when we get there. Any items from the council regarding amendments? Seeing none. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item are citizen comments not related to an agenda item, and I do have one letter to read.
Okay, so let's start with see if there's any those present.
There is a hand raised.
Okay, so I'll get to that in a second. So if there's any comments from those present not related to an agenda item, just be mindful of the rules of the chamber as is regarding 3 minutes. Please address the overall administration or chair with your comments. So I'll leave the clerk treasurer to call them in the order as you see them, and make sure we get to everybody. I see 2 hands as well so far.
So the first hand that I saw raised, they are now in the able to speak.
Sure, I see it. It says John and Krista. Please, if you identify yourself, we need your name and your address of jurisdiction where you reside. John? Krista? Okay, we might be muted. Try to work that out. Now it shows muted. So try again, John or Krista.
Sometimes the volume isn't up. If they could make sure their volume is up.
Mm-hmm. I know I see them going back and forth.
I can move them and bring the next person forward.
Okay, why don't we do that? And so, John, if obviously you can hear, I believe you can hear us, or Krista. We're having a little problem with your mute or volume. Please check your volume, see if it's up. We're going to move to the next person, but we'll come right back to you. Thank you, clerk.
All right.
Stephen, name and jurisdiction address, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Stephen Meyer. I live in Monroe, Michigan, the city of Monroe. Do you need my home address?
That will suffice.
Okay, it's 511 Toledo Avenue in the city of Monroe.
Very good. Stephen, your comments, please.
Okay, I moved to the city of Monroe in 2010, and I love it here, and I bought my home here, and I wish to stay here. And ever since I moved here, though, the Custer statue has bothered me. And the first time I heard somebody kind of protest against it, I immediately responded. I was like, oh, yes, thanks. I'm not the only one. And I do believe that Custer deserves to be remembered and studied, but he doesn't deserve to be deified in a bronze and marble in front of a church in the center of our city. And I grew up in Northern Virginia, and I remember when my grandparents, who lived in New England, came down to visit us, and the first thing they said when they got out of the car was like, wow, I realize we're in the South, like, because every place name was named after like Jefferson Davis and Lynchburg and stuff. And they're like, we are really in the South. And our high school, Fairfax High School in Virginia, had a mascot of Johnny Reb, and he was a Confederate soldier. And for 35 years, there'd been an argument in the city to get rid of that. And finally, like last June, in June 2020, they got rid of the last vestiges of the rebel within the Fairfax High School mascot. And I think they realized that the future looks brighter and more hopeful when American high school kids cheer for something other than pro-slavery insurgents during their high school basketball games. And I believe for the brighter future of Monroe, we should look at what our tokens and public art says about us. And I imagine, like the poem Ozymandias, like what will future anthropologists think of our city, like when they pull back the sands and see this like bronze warlord in front of a church, the biggest, most prominent statue in the city of Monroe. And what does that like bronze deity in front of the church say about what our city cared about? And so yeah, my name is Stephen Meyer, and I think we need to move that statue if we want to have a brighter future and welcoming for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So I'm going to remind those calling in the item on the Custer monument is on the agenda. And I would ask that there's comments related to that. It is under the council action. It is under consideration for some action by the council this evening by the administration's fact sheet, which we'll discuss here later. We will take comments regarding the Custer monument at that time. I know, Stephen, I don't recall having you called in before, and I just didn't want to interrupt you in your thought process. But I'd ask the others that may be calling in to discuss the Custer monument, because I know the clerk has some letters as well to read. We'll be doing those during the council action on item 3093, so we can move along to the agenda. So clerk, we'll see if John or Krista can come back, and if there's others who'll want to chat about the Custer monument with their position, I'll be interrupting. So go ahead.
All right.
John, can you hear us? And if you would, identify yourself and address of jurisdiction, please. We see you're unmuted, John. We cannot hear you yet.
Well, there's
Hello?
another.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Excellent.
Sorry about that, everybody.
No
Good
problem.
evening. This is Krista Kleider, and I am calling in reference to 98 Winchester. So first of all, I just wanted to thank the City Council for connecting us to Mr. Pastor. We had a productive meeting with him on March 17th, and we have been anxiously waiting for an update on the 98 Winchester transformation project since. We were just asked to schedule the second meeting with him, and this will occur this Wednesday. Just an update about the laundromat is all the equipment is installed and the doors are ready to open. I know that the community is very excited about this. They will have brand new Maytag washing machines, change and vending machines as well. And we are very excited to offer the service to the Monroe area. We are grateful for everyone's hard work, so we would like to personally invite everyone to our grand opening for the Ketamine Institute of Michigan Monroe. It will be held May 7th and 8th from 10 to 4 p.m. With a chain cutting ceremony on Friday the 7th at noon, because mental illness holds its victims in chains. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, so we are hosting a variety of other vendors and organizations crucial to helping fight not only mental illness, but alcohol and opioid addiction and chronic pain. We are hopeful you will come to support us and break these chains with us, and perhaps we'll also be celebrating the grand opening of the laundromat as well. Thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate all your help.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for the update. And I know Mr. Pesto also has been speaking regarding the updates and the conversations. So thank you much. Clerk Treasurer.
Oh, there is a Mark H with their hand up.
All right, we'll start there.
All right.
Mark, if you would, you identify yourself, please, and jurisdiction residence.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Mark Hill. My residence is actually in Ohio right now. My son and I, my son lives in Michigan, we've been looking at buildings in Monroe with the possibility of opening a Class C cannabis cultivation. And I understand that you guys have not made the decision on whether you're going to opt in or opt out yet. And so I guess I just wanted to have a few minutes to talk about that. Cultivations, I think they get a bad rap, but if you look at the state requirements on them, they're very discreet. There's a lot of security involved. And basically, you don't want anybody knowing what you're doing inside the building, right? And and so you don't see it, you don't smell it, you don't know about it, right? And I know there's always concerns about smell, But if you size your carbon filters correctly, which is a state requirement, no smell leaves the building. So there's a lot of buildings in Monroe that are older buildings, not in great shape. And if you guys would allow cultivations, this would allow fresh money to come in and purchase those buildings. And it would bring quite a revenue to the city. You know, a Class C, you're looking at about 20 employees, hourly employees, plus about 5 salaried employees per Class C. Most counties charge most municipalities charge a $5,000 once a year license. And if you find the right property, once you get a Class C, you can actually stack license 5 times. So one Class C could turn into 5 Class Cs. So that's, $25,000 a year to the city just for the opportunity to grow there. So I'm not sure what your positions are. I saw the memo from your last meeting that said you thought about doing retail. I was kind of surprised by that if you're concerned about cannabis, that you'd want to put in or allow dispensaries in your area. But I can assure you that cultivations, they're clean, they're safe, and they're a great tax revenue for the municipality. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you for your comments. Clerk?
Mr. Buds has his hand up.
Okay, Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, I just wanted to say one point of clarification that as of right now, the city's opted out of both medical and recreational. Obviously, there's ongoing discussion about that, but I wanted to make a clarification because I think the citizen had commented that he didn't think a decision had been made. Just wanted to clarify there is a current decision, but that's obviously something that's been a point of discussion for council at this point.
Yeah, that is correct. Thanks, Mr. Buds. And obviously for our work session earlier this evening, we did not get to is going to be some continuing discussion regarding the development potentially of an ordinance and some dialogue with the council regarding the topics regarding recreational marijuana. So that will come at a later date. Clerk Treasurer, I don't see any other hands.
I do not.
Well,
Mark.
Well, it's going to be a return from the original discussion, and there'll be an opportunity if somebody wishes to make additional comments at the end of the meeting. But so I know, Mark, we have not chatted before. I don't recall, but the opportunity to speak comments from the citizens is 3 minutes, but also it's not a debate dialogue at this time with the council. When it gets to be an agenda item, we'll take comments there as well. And if there's information Mark, that you wish to have, you may send that forward to the city of Monroe, attention to our community planner, Mr. Jeff Green. But we're going to move forward with our council meeting and our agenda items and items we have to have decisions this evening.
So your Honor, I have first I'm having a little trouble with my camera, so that's why you don't see me, but I'm working on it in between items. But I do have that letter not related to an agenda item.
Yes, thank you. I forgot. So please read the letter you have if there's whatever ones you have for now.
Okay, so I just have one. My name is Katie Beth Davis, and I live on La Pleasance Road, Monroe Charter Township, 48161. I do believe that you all know that I've requested the general Custer statue be removed or relocated, and I appreciate the time and the effort that is being put forth in order to find a solution to the psychological harm that has been done and is being done by having the statue remain in its current location. But this evening, I'm writing to request the renaming of the Custer Airport. The airport is owned and operated by the city of Monroe. General Custer had nothing to do with aviation at all. The airport is another public space that has the name of a colonizer. I've started a petition for renaming the airport, but I do feel like since the discussion is now open for the statue, we need to come up with a solution for the airport. Also, I was able to tour the Monroe County Museum this summer and was extremely concerned the only public restroom available were the Little Libby's and the Little Custer's room. The symbolism showed that in order to use this restroom, you would have to resemble Libby or Custer and left no room for anyone in between. I expressed my concerns to the Monroe County Museum, and on my most recent visit was delighted to see these images had been removed in the bathroom, clearly marked restroom. It is my hope the mayor and the city council take into consideration renaming the airport to prove to our Black, Indigenous, and person of color population that they matter to the city residents and public officials. A suggestion that was given to me would be to would be to rename the airport for Monroe resident and World War II veteran Irvin Urvios. He recently turned 107 and he served as a primary war training service flight instructor at a base in Fraser, training Navy V-5 cadets. I would like you to compare the men's biographies and see who would be more deserving of the airport name. Personally, I'd like to see Amelia Earhart or the Tuskegee Airmen, but we'll be thankful and grateful for minority voices to be heard. Thank you for the time. Happy Easter, and thank you for all you do. Katie Beth Davis. And that's all I have, not related to an agenda item.
Okay, then we'll move forward to the next item.
The next item is a proclamation.
Thank you. And I have the proclamation. I see that Mr. Smith has joined us here this evening as well. And I might get to Mike to make a few comments, but you know, it's the time of year we opportunities for all of our residents and the council and the community to really think about our children who deserve the health, safe, and nurturing environment free from abuse and neglect. And this is a proclamation in regard to the Child Advocacy Network of Monroe and recognition for the great work they're doing. If you look around the downtown and throughout the community of the Monroe County with the Pinwheels for Prevention and what that means and why we bring this forward for our community to stop, recognize that there are youth and children in our need that are impacted through abuse or neglect. So we have a proclamation here, and it's a little challenging. It's a little different than when we met Mike in person in council chambers. In a virtual sense, I always like to say we have a proclamation, and I will make sure that it gets presented here this evening, but also in our conversation. The prevention gardens are popping up all over through the community. And so I just want to, before I get some comments from you, the Pinwheel for Prevention Gardens will kick off, and it started on March 22nd, actually. It started at the Opportunity Center at the ALCC, but also we've had them elsewhere downtown at the in our Lawrenceur Square, but also at the YMCA. I've seen them at other facilities in their little gardens. But I do want to say that as Robert E. Clark is mayor of the city of Monroe and full support of the city council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Monroe. And we encourage all residents to participate, volunteer, and support programs so we may end child abuse and ensure that children grow up in a safe and healthy environment. Mike, I know you're here. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about the campaign, but also the Child Advocacy Network and the good work that's being done regarding this item today.
Mayor and City Council, thank you very much for your continued support of our Pinwheels for Prevention program focused on Child Abuse and Neglect Awareness Month, which is the month of April. As you can see, and the mayor has already discussed, not only are there signs and pinwheels up in the city, but across the county at every school building across the county. So we do focus on the libraries and the school buildings where parents are picking up or taking their children so that they can see that there is a contact phone number. If you do witness something, we ask that you don't be afraid to confront making sure that parents who are having a difficult time get some help. There are programs for parents so that they can become better parents. So I did share with Clerk Lavoie some statistics. There is no chat that I could share that with in this on this meeting, so I couldn't share it, but Clerk Lavoie will share those statistics. And the good news is that Monroe has actually declined in cases of abuse and neglect. So hopefully our awareness program is working and people understand there are other avenues than neglecting your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. It's always appreciate the support within the community that you and others continue to do and on a cause such as this and many others. So congratulations to the continued efforts of all those workers and volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, next item, please. You're muted, Michelle.
Sorry, I was halfway done with the meeting. Under council action, we have item number 3091, Monroe County Technology Enhancement Millage Renewal.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu, I don't know if you have introduction. I know we have some guests here.
I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll just do a quick one, Your Honor. Again, you have tonight a resolution of support for millage renewal. We have with us two representatives to talk about the renewal, Mr. David Payne and Terry Joseph. I'm not sure if there's an order that which you wish to follow, but just to give a little background.
Sure, thank you. And I'll let them go ahead and unmute. And if you want to make some comments regarding the technology enhancement millage renewal. Looks like David.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, my name is David Payne, and I'm the Technology Director for Monroe Public Schools. And I'd just like to go over a few brief points on the Monroe County Technology Enhancement Millage that'll be up for vote on May 4th. It's a 5-year enhancement millage that first started in 1997. And for Monroe Public Schools, it brings in roughly $1.6 million a year for our teachers and our students. We use it for anything from hardware and software and services to support 24/7 one-to-one programs for iPads and Chromebooks, classroom computers and projectors, to network items like wireless across our campuses, and to build our server infrastructure to support cloud-based applications. The millage supports items like giving students access to AutoCAD and Adobe Photoshop from home that normally would take a higher end computer. But due to the millage, we were able to build up infrastructure to allow that, especially during the pandemic. It's really proved to give students equal access no matter what type of hardware they have at home. All of our students are given a device to support the one-to-one initiative. This provides items that would help internet filtering to protect our students while they're online. So this is a huge support for Monroe Public Schools and for the county, for all schools in Monroe County. I would also, if you do want more information or members want more information, ISD, monroeisd.us has a lot of information that explains how it's funded, where the money goes, and how it's kind of established. And I'd like to defer a few minutes to Ms. Joseph, who can kind of tie in how it directly correlates with our curriculum department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Terry?
Great, thank you. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak this evening. So with the things in place that Mr. Payne just spoke of, it allows Monroe Public Schools to then provide our staff and students with exceptional online digital resources, specifically in the 4 content areas of mathematics, reading and writing, science, and social studies, as well as some of the things that Dave had mentioned with our elective courses and our encore courses, such as robotics and coding, computer science, radio broadcasting, just to name a few. With the support of the technology millage, Monroe Public Schools, as well as other schools throughout the county, are able to provide robust programming that can then be differentiated to meet the individual needs, the individual interests and talents, and career occupational pursuits of our school community, preparing students for successful post-secondary opportunities.
Thank you, Terry. You know, I think back as you read the resolution that's before the council for consideration here, back in 1997, when this was first started, it may have been the first in the state, if not one of the first, about the importance of technology and how the residents countywide have come together to see that importance and the benefits over the decades now. And I understand there's other counties that have followed in this along Monroe County's initiative from 1997. So it's a in today's world and technology, having this is significantly beneficial to the youth of our community. So I want to thank David and Terry both for providing some additional information. We'll go to council to see if there's any comments, questions. If not, it's a council action item presented regarding a resolution. Councilman Michael.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, that I've been impressed with the technology millage, that, you know, it started out being an enhancement. Now it's a basic infrastructure for our educational system. And it's very important for the kids to have access to this, because without it, we're not going to be competitive in the future. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we move to approve the resolution for the Monroe County Technology Enhancement Millage, and council supports it.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Nicolangi, supported by Councilwoman Whitman on item 3091, the Monroe County Technology Enhancement Village Renewal Resolution be adopted. No further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
yes,
Littlemore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Thank you, David and Terry, again for joining us, and we wish the best.
great presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, I would like to make one comment.
Yes, Councilwoman Whitman, please do.
I run Paula's house, and I cannot tell you how school has changed and what a connection it is to having the digital equipment given to these children so that when they are out of school, they still are connected. I think that Monroe County is just doing a wonderful job, especially with the population of children that I work with. So I commend you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Okay, Clerk Treasurer, next item, please.
The next item is item 3085, proposed budget ordinance 21-002, an ordinance to adopt fiscal year 2021-2022 budget for City of Monroe, up for its first reading and setting of the public hearing date.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll move that ordinance number 21-002. The budget ordinance be placed on the floor for its first reading and the public hearing be scheduled for Monday, April the 19th, 2021.
Second.
Or
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Nicolangi, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 3085, the budget ordinance as stated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
yes,
Littlemore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-002, Budget Appropriations Act, July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. An ordinance to approve the budget for the City of Monroe for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
The next item is 3089, proposed ordinance 21-003, an ordinance to amend sections 345-1 and 345-2 of Chapter 345 Fire Prevention of the Code of the City of Monroe, up for its first reading and setting of the future hearing date.
Your Honor, if I might
I'll
just do
make
a quick introduction.
go ahead.
Sure, if you would, Mr. Pastu, and then I think Councilman Nicolangi is ready, but please go ahead.
Yeah, this is just, again, just an update of the fire prevention ordinance, updating the adoption by reference to the International Fire Code, the 2018 edition. And as noted at our work session, that going forward, there would be more of an automatic renewal as these new editions are published. So.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that proposed ordinance 21-03, an ordinance to amend sections 345-1, 345-2 of Chapter 345 Fire Prevention for the City of Monroe be placed on its first reading and a public hearing be scheduled for Monday, April the 19th, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Nicolangi, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 3089, the proposed ordinance 21-003, as stated for its reading and public hearing. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
yes,
Littlemore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Our ordinance 21-003, Chapter 345, Fire Prevention, an ordinance to amend sections 345-1 and 345-2 of Chapter 345, Fire Prevention of the Code of the City of Monroe.
Thank you. Next item.
The next item is item 3090, proposed ordinance 21-004, an ordinance to create a new chapter in the City Code, Chapter 346, Fire Prevention, Recreational Fires, and Outdoor Portable Fireplaces, up for its first reading and establishment of public hearing date and second reading.
Mr. Pastu, any comments or?
Well, just in general, and then I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Buds, that based on our work session, the draft ordinance that we reviewed at our March 15th work session has been amended, identified where those changes took place with it. I don't know if Mr. Buds wants to go into any more detail. And then we probably will have a little discussion about fire rings as well on residential property as well. So, Mr. Buds.
Your Honor and Counsel, the summary was provided in the fact sheet basically to make specific reference to the campground licensing statute, to modify and strengthen some language about the requirement for supervision and extinguishment of the fire, broadening the chief's discretion to include whether environmental, ozone, or drought, or certain automatic terminations for when fires such as the type that are permitted would not be permissible, including references to ozone or air quality days from Eagle or the DNR, and explicitly providing that the chief or his designee would have the authority to extinguish any fires not in accordance with the ordinance. I think, as the city manager mentioned, one of the items that is not included but had been discussed and was part of the work session, I think at one point in time, was whether what I'm going to generally call campfires, fires within a ring, those are permissible within a campground. In the current draft of the ordinance, there was some discussion about whether those should be permissible or not in a backyard setting. I think that there's discussion that goes on both sides of those issues. I think it would need to be an appropriate distance, and I think it's fair for me to say that I think as a general matter, the fire chief would prefer to not explore that opportunity, but that's where the ordinance stands as it's presented to you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Buds. And of course, that's here this evening for to be placed on the floor for its first reading and the public hearing to be set. Mr. Pastu, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. Councilman Lange, I think you either had a comment or you were going to move forward.
One of the comments, thanks, Your Honor. One of the comments for the city manager is, since we're going to allow these in the city, would it be appropriate for the city at least to have this on our Facebook page or on the city website, an example of the type of portable fireplaces that people could buy, people could use?
Yes, I think, certainly in conversation with Chief White and with Ms. Egan, our communications director, is that there is a plan for rolling this out and going into some detail in explaining the appropriate use of these portable fires devices, such as the chimneys that are out in the marketplace. So yes, that would be part of, and again, part of it is just the awareness. High winds don't. Specific weather conditions, just a number of things to alert property owners when it's appropriate and not appropriate to have these fires.
Your Honor, I'll move that ordinance 21-004, an ordinance to create chapter 346 of the city code, referred to as fire prevention, recreational fires, and portable outdoor fireplaces, be placed on the floor for its first reading, and that a public hearing be set for April the 19th, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lange, supported by Councilwoman Germaini on item 3090, proposed ordinance 21-004, that he be placed on the floor for its first reading and a public hearing be set at the date indicated. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance 21-004, Chapter 346, Fire Prevention, Recreational Fires, and Portable Outdoor Fireplaces. An ordinance to adopt Chapter 346, Fire Prevention, Recreational Fires, and Portable Outdoor Fireplaces of the Code of the City of Monroe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
The next item is item 3092, establish public hearing date for 1000 Turns Drive Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption.
Mr. Pastu, or
I was looking for Mr. Green. I'm not sure if he's still
Let me see.
on the attendee list.
I don't,
I did not see him.
I don't see him
Did earlier.
either. He was there earlier, but I must have dropped off. I don't see him at the moment.
Okay, well, let me just, if I may, Your Honor, I'll just do the quick introduction is that, we did receive an application for a industrial facility tax exemption with backyard products. They're engaged in a pretty substantial expansion of their facility. And so in order to move this forward, we're looking to schedule a public hearing for Monday, May 3rd, 2021 at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, any questions at this point from council? If not, it's up to schedule the public hearing.
Your Honor, I'll move that we schedule a public hearing for Monday, May 3rd, 7:30 p.m. to review and accept comments related to the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate from Backyard Products LLC.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Icolani, supported by Councilman Lamore. Item 3092, establishing the public hearing date regarding 1000 Turnus Drive for the purposes stated and date for the public hearing as stated. Clerk, please call the roll. You're muted.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item is item 3087, consideration of resolution to terminate Brownfield redevelopment plan at 1150 Turnus Drive.
Thank you. I see we have a hand up, but I'll get an introduction as first for Mr. Pastu or whoever might be speaking, and then we'll see what the comment is.
Well, let me take a start at it, Your Honor. The council held the public hearing at the February 16th meeting to accept comments regarding the proposed resolution to terminate the Brownfield plan at 1150 Turnus Drive. The recommendation to terminate the plan is based on lack of progress over the 3.5-year period since the plan was approved. Plus, there's some challenges that we had with some of the detail associated with site plan and construction drawings as well. At the public hearing, representatives from the applicant, Sam Paul LLC, offered explanations regarding the delays in the start of the project. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the council did not take any action on the resolution to terminate the Brownfield plan. Council did adopt a motion that the resolution be on the April 5th agenda for consideration. This was to provide the applicant owners an opportunity to move the project forward and report back at the April 5th meeting. As I indicated in the fact sheet, we had not, with the owners, have had any forward-moving progress related to the contract or to the construction process. One of the things that was still in question was, we are looking for a state of Michigan licensed contractor in good standing to start the project, and as of that date, we did not have one. So, with that. I don't know, Mr. Buds, if there's anything you want to add to regarding the process or.
Your Honor, I don't have anything really further to add other than that the resolution is presented before the council again. And as far as everything that Mr. Pastu stated, I would agree as far as what's been presented to me. And I would encourage Your Honor to give, I believe it's Mr. Patel that raised his hand, the opportunity to be heard again at this meeting of City Council, and then the council can move forward with any further action that is desired by council at that point.
Sure. I think at this time, council may have questions for administration, but let's hear from Mr. Patel, Ajit Patel. Clerk, if you could move them into the speak. Just be mindful, we're talking about the Brownfield redevelopment plan. That's up for resolution to terminate. Mr. Patel, just identify yourself, please, and your comments.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Ajit Patel, and I'm a member of the SAMPAL LLC. So I have some updates to provide to you. Since we talked last time, we have been working hard, and we are working with several local Michigan contractors. One of them is Davidson Construction. They're doing the big building right next door. And then we're also working with UH Advisors. Sam McCurry is the owner of that. And so we are very close to securing the contract with them, and we're going to be starting to do the work on that. So I have that update for you. And then I just wanted to also point out that, you know, since we purchased that land, which was a blighted property, you know, you're all aware that we have worked very hard. We have demolished that building. We have worked on the PUD. We have done the plan approval of the whole thing. We have also paid the, you know, permit in full. And then lastly, regarding the Brownfield process, you know, we had been the ASTI company that we worked with. You know, they helped us, and they said they were very surprised that City of Monroe is not giving extension because all the other people got extension. So we are requesting that we get an extension to get this thing going, and as I said, we are ready to go, and you know, we have to seek legal advice, but we don't want to go that route. We rather just get the project going, and we are ready to go. Summer's coming, weather's improving, so you know, we want all your help to get this project going.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. At this point, I'll come back to council, see if there's any, I'm sorry, you have further?
No, that's what I had to say.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. Thank you. I'll just ask if there's any comments or questions from council for.
So Councilman Felder has his hand
Oh, I'm
raised.
sorry, I missed that. I apologize. Councilman Felder, please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was trying to listen to Mr. Patel. I think that he said that they secured a contractor and a architectural firm for some services. I guess my only question is, has any significant construction activity taken place on the site since we spoke on this last?
I'll look both to Mr. Pasteur, Mr. Buds, and as I jotted my notes here, he said he's had contact with local Michigan contractors, and he's close to securing them, is what he had stated. So my question to the administration, to follow up to Councilman Felder's, is, has our departments received that confirmation of a contract secured? And then also the answer Councilman Felder's question. Mr. Pestu?
The answer is no. There has not been a licensed contractor in Michigan in good standing that has come to finalize the permit for the project.
And I guess the other question he had, Councilman had, was, has any, I'll just say, I don't know if he said significant, or just any construction work been started?
Well, no, there can't be, because the permits have not been issued.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from council? Councilman Michelangeli, looks like you're ready.
Well, Your Honor, I'm the, 60 days ago, I was the one that asked council, at least provided the suggestion that we give the developer 60 days to get his contractor license, because at that time he was working with an out-of-state contractor that had to go through the Michigan licensing procedure, and he said they were very close to getting that done. And 60 days is, it's 2 months to put this together, and now we're being asked for an additional extension, and there's really not a contractor that has been retained by the developer to actually get the permit. They're just talking with people. I don't think at this point this has been dragging on for several years now. I think the city has been very accommodating in its process and the opportunities that they've given the developer to get this project up and running. And so with that said, because I'm all about brownfield redevelopment, but just based on the track record and the progress, with that said, I'll move to adopt the resolution to terminate the brownfield redevelopment plan for 1150 Turnus Avenue.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Michelangi, supported by Councilman Felder, to adopt the resolution to terminate the brownfield redevelopment plan for 1150 Turnus Drive. Any final comments? I'll just say I agree, Councilman. I think that there's been many opportunities and it's gone on for years. And we need more than just close to, and that's not happening. So with that, if there's no other comments, there's the motion to terminate the plan and seconded. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
yes,
Wilmore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes,
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 3093, discussion Custer Monument Community Engagement Facilitation Request for Qualifications.
Mr. Pastu.
Thank you, Your Honor. Contained in the packet for tonight was a draft request for qualifications to conduct a community engagement facilitation project related to the Custer Monument. Was contained in the background of that RFQ was the goals associated with that. The first being is to provide a more balanced representation of General Custer to the community that tells the complete story beyond just the memorial, which was there for most related to the involvement with the battle at Gettysburg and the Civil War. And then the second aspect would be to try and move the community toward a general consensus regarding the future of the monument, and that to what extent any historical representations would take place associated with his involvement in the U.S. American Indian War and any other affected Indian tribes as well with that U.S. policy. And I think after the last meeting, we had a couple of public comments, of which the two polar extremes were represented and appeared to be unyielding in their position. I was optimistic that this may be the right way to approach this. And now I will tell you, doubt and question entered my mind whether we could achieve a possible broad community consensus regarding the monument itself. And so in a general sense, council's got to assess whether this community consensus can be achieved through an RFQ process, or is it being just a waste of time and effort, and at the end have one group question its legitimacy and validity of the process, and if that was in fact the case, what have we accomplished? And so, we're at a point now where I just think I'm ready to just put it on, have council discuss a ballot question for November 2021. Mr. Buds and I've had some discussion regarding what that content of a referendum question could look like regarding the monument at St. Mary's Park. But at least at that point, there'll be a specific direction that we can take regarding the monument and how you actually can provide a broader representation of the entire background with Custer beyond just the Civil War monument. So, with that, I have it out there for discussion whether we need to proceed with this RFQ or whether we should go a different route.
So I'll give council the opportunity if they have any comments. I will say Clerk Lavoie has advised me that did receive some communications to be read into the record regarding this item that's on the agenda. And there may be those that are present wish to speak as well. So I'll first see if the council has any initial thoughts or if they want to hear from the letters or those present. As I understand, Councilman Felder, I see your hand up, and then I'll go from there to Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mostly, I just want to constrain my comments to whether or not we feel that this should be a professionally facilitated project. I think I have two questions about the RFQ. It says that seed money will be injected by the city, but then supplementary funds from other sources may materialize later. What do we have any idea what those other sources are? Or are we just saying there might be more money from other places in the future.
Well, I think other source potentially locally could be the county museum potentially to assist with some of that funding, and then we may end up looking for outside sources to help carry the project beyond that, but nothing definitive.
Okay. Do we have any idea? The goals are certainly set out, but the methods in process on what we're asking the facilitator to do, what do we anticipate that that's going to be apart from holding a public meeting and in a public forum?
Well, given the complexity and the emotion of the issue itself, I think in this case, it was purposefully written somewhat broad so that any consultant firm submitting a proposal, we would look to them for their thoughts as to how they thought this may be best, whether it's some form of starting off with some focus groups, broader surveys of the community, community dialogue at a later point in time. But I do think it was written in a very general sense to rely on the expertise of whomever was selected as a consultant for this project. Much different than what we normally do with some of our others, that's for sure.
It seemed to be written very open-endedly.
Yes.
Yeah. My only concern is if we're just hiring a professional facilitator to facilitate a public meeting in a public forum, I sort of am looking to the committee that we set up to do that. I think it's desperately important that the community has a discussion about this. It's important for the community to have a discussion about this more than it is about the statute. The statute, I think, at this point is a secondary issue. The community discussion surrounding this and the broader issues that we need to have a conversation about it are at this point the primary concern and the primary reason where we need to sit down and talk with one another. And I still think that's why I voted to put this committee together, because I thought that conversation was important. That's why I still think it's important. But in terms of having a public meeting, I'm assuming Mayor Clark is going to chair the committee. And for the better part of the last decade, he's chaired a committee, twice a month. He's got a fair number of meetings under his belt. And I'm just thinking that him and the committee could probably handle most of what we're asking the facilitator to do. If we're looking for a public discussion in a public forum for people to come forward from a vast variety of sources and organizations within the community to come and give their point of view and give their background and their feelings onto this. And I think that that's important, that should happen. Is the committee itself just able to do that? We're holding a public meeting. We're facilitating a public meeting right now, for example.
If I may, Your Honor, in response.
Sure.
The answer is I don't think so. And I'll be honest with you, is we try to put together in developing this was certainly in collaboration with Mayor Clark, Mark Cochran, Andy Clark with the County Museum, Brian Egan. And we sometimes say, well, gee, can 5 white guys handle this? And the answer is probably not. I mean, there has to be somebody that is going to be recognized as being impartial and actually has what I would call the skill set of dealing with a public engagement. While I've seen it done successfully, it doesn't mean I could personally do it. And again, given the emotion and complexity of this particular issue that we're dealing with, I do think it would require somebody with a pretty strong skill set in that area, because at the end of the day, it's got to be viewed legitimately. And now I'm even questioning whether if you brought an independent third party in, can we still achieve it? And that's the essence of my my concern at the end of the staff report.
We'll move along. I'll come back, Andrew, but Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with the city manager. I think that finding common ground is getting harder and harder. I'd like to have a facilitator to be able to find it, but if it's not there, I don't know if we're just spinning wheels trying to find it. And that's where I really have the problem with this, is that no matter what we try to do to facilitate something, if the answer isn't he's moving, then they're not going to get what they want. And how can that be mutual? There is no mutuality there. So I think the education process has to be there somewhere, but it's getting lost. And I don't think that they want to listen to that. I certainly would love to see it happen. I'd love to see the mutualness between this, the moving committee versus the people that want it to stay. But I don't see it happening, and I don't see the mutual ground anywhere. So I think we're just spinning our wheels trying to put something together that's just not going to happen.
Council Michelangelo.
Your Honor, I think it's important that we have a committee that can review the proposals and make recommendations, but I think it's important that we go through a open and transparent process, because this is more than just deciding if the Custer statue stays where it's at or if it's relocated. This is really a journey into education and a journey into history. And it's a conversation that's being held nationally. I mean, last night, if anybody had the opportunity to watch 60 Minutes, they had a segment on the discussions that the United States military, and primarily the Army, is having in relationship to changing the names of many of our military installations that were named after Confederate generals. And this is involving West Point, the Department of Defense, plus the communities that these facilities are located in. And it's no different than this conversation about Custer statue. We're at a point in time in our history where we have to take a look historically at what was good about different events and people and what was deficient or bad, and make a decision on where the community stands relative to this and where our next steps are. But I think it's got to be transparent. And if we go through the process and we can't get consensus, then at least we've uncovered some of the issues that we have to face in the future, because there's other conversations going on. I mean, we just had a letter tonight to rename Custer statue. There's been people that have been at the county commission asking to take down the statue of President Monroe, who the city is named after. And then you have to go through this continuum, is what is important and when does it stop? Because I'm not interested in changing the name of the city of Monroe, because we're named after President Monroe, and because President Monroe back then, when he was president, and before he was president, he was a slave owner. I get that. That's historic fact. But we need to have a conversation about it. And I think a facilitator, a good one that's from outside the area, can have this conversation with multiple people, multiple stakeholders, and really try to figure out what is the essence of this community conversation and where we need to go. Because ever since this started a year ago, every council meeting, we're discussing it. And that tells me that there are people in the community that are concerned about it. So we owe it to them to have this conversation, and we owe it to ourselves. So I think, I know where the city manager is going. Sometimes you do a study and you can't come to consensus, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Okay, we're just assuming we may not reach consensus, but until we go down that journey and that process, we're not going to know. So I think it's important. I think it's a step that as a group, as a council, we told the community we were going to do. And it's taken a little bit longer for us to get there, but I think it's the next reasonable step. And with facilitation comes education, and with education comes a perspective on what's going on nationally. And I think that's what's needed. The last thing I think what's needed is to put this on the general election and ask people to vote about it, because that is then going to divide this community even further. And I don't want to see that personally. So I say, let's take steps. This step is, let's bring the facilitator in and find out where this goes. And then we have, at least we'll have an idea of what some of the obstacles are, or maybe some of the opportunities that we have. But this is a hot topic in the community, and I think it deserves attention. And I think we need to bring somebody in from the outside to help us through it.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. I'll see if there's other council comments as we go around. So just as, Councilwoman Jermaine, your hand's up.
Andrew had his hand up as well, so he's before me.
I already spoke. I'll wait for you to go once before I go twice.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Your Honor. I think the broad spectrum of emotion that we have going on concerning this subject and many others that we have in the city and throughout the country, that we need a guiding hand to help us through this process. And John is right, we owe it to the public. And as a council, I think we would be serving the public well by doing this. Thank you.
Councilman Felder?
Thank you, sir. If one of the suggestions, as is listed in the RFP, is going towards a public referendum, there's a timeline on when we need to have that, when we need to have a decision back from the committee after the facilitation takes place. Because there's a cutoff deadline on when we can eat, when that even becomes an option anymore. Is that, when's the last day we can put something on the November ballot?
That would be Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, and I don't know that we have that. I'd have to calculate the dates back. I don't know the exact date. I don't know if the clerk does.
Well, we would want to have it because you have to also go through, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Buds, but you have to get it approved by the couple offices in Lansing as well. So we would need to send that into them, I think by some point in July is what we have done.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's always another election. So you could decide if you were truly shooting for the November election, or, you know, aiming for one maybe at some point in the future. But for November's purposes, you would need to vote on something in June, most likely, to make sure we had enough time for everything.
Thank you.
The very beginning of July at the latest.
Yeah, not saying whether or not that's a path we want to go down, but if that's going to be proposed as one of the options, I think that that sort of sets a timeline on when we might want to have this wrapping up. If we want to put it out and see what put the RFP out and see what the firms come back with in terms of the suggestions that they might have to do this, I guess I'm happy to look at them. And then as to the project team that's listed in the RFP, I was sort of surprised to see the list as short as it was. I know that we've been discussing and having conversations with some of our other organizational partners throughout the community, including many of our native partners. And I don't see any of them on the committee, but I know that they're also active. Many of them sit on other committees that we have. So I'm wondering if we can, maybe I'm playing Monday morning quarterback, but is there a way to be more inclusive and perhaps expand the membership of the project team?
Well, I see Vince, Mr. Pastua's hand up. I just want to clarify that. So the start of the project team was about the RFQ and putting together an item that would go out as a search to find the facilitator to do it, not to be the facilitation group. Because I'll be honest, when the conversations started over the past year, it was simply about removal and not replacing somewhere else in the city. Then it was couldn't be there, couldn't be here, and it's so polarized. It just focuses around the monument itself and whether it should be on that corner or not. And I think Councilman Michelangelo is correct. I think everybody in council recognizes there's a much broader discussion, and that was the intent of the project team. Was how do we put together an RFQ that goes out? And then we got into the conversation of trying to find those that would fit within what we're asking for. And it was a challenge to see where it would go as far as being receptive to being able to facilitate this. And as Councilman said, every meeting we continue to have dialogue and discussion about this, and we're not moving forward because it's getting further separated than closer. And it's like if you have two people that are at such opposite points and will not have space to embrace or recognize the other conversation, bringing that to the table will only have conflict and we'll never have resolution. And I don't think that's going to be done by a project team that we currently have, or just making it broader. Now, so it gets to the point of the agenda item for this evening. And Mr. Pastu is writing it for the options that he sees for which the council can make a decision on. One is to proceed with the RFQ and have it sent out, which we've heard this evening. Or if that's not going to work, then we look at the residents and their comments regarding and how whatever language that would be regarding the Custer Monument and where it currently sits. I see challenges with both. It's a process of going through the RFQ and having a facilitator that can obtain the information that we've talked about and have the dialogues that we've talked about. I'll be honest, I would be surprised that this could be finished and completed by July, that there'd be a decision later that actually, I don't even think that should be a timeline is put there, because you're pressuring everything into a compact time frame just because you're trying to potentially achieve a deadline for a ballot initiative. And I think that's not a good driver, because then you start to get off track, which is it could take, and I think Mr. Pastu said it, this is a long process. And if we're going to facilitate and get the input from the community through the RFQ and have a facilitator, then we have to be patient on what that is. And we have to be willing to see, as the outcome comes to be, as a community together and in unity, this is what we will do by what's brought forward. There's much to the conversation without question. That's my thoughts. So I'll see if there's other comments from council members. So we have some hands that have been up. We have two.
Councilperson Michelangeli has his hand.
I'm sorry. We'll go back to the Councilman Michelangeli, and then we'll look at the comments. But Clerk Treasurer Lavoie has received some correspondence as well that needs to be read. Councilman Michelangeli, you're muted, sir.
Your Honor, I appreciate your comments. I just want to emphasize to the council my feeling. Putting this on a general election ballot is going to divide this community. Mm-hmm. And that is not the appropriate thing to do. We really need to explore this with a facilitator. These are issues that are being discussed locally, regionally, and nationally, and they have a lot of implications attached to them, and some of them have unintended consequences. But the last thing we need to do is put this on a November ballot and ask the community to decide what they want to do with the Custer statue, because it's just going to divide this community even further. And we need to get this community together for the future. We don't need to separate it and divide it. We need to unify it. And so I'm all in favor. I would not want to be the facilitator on this project, to be honest with you. But there are people out there that really enjoy this type of a challenge. And I think it's going to be somebody that's going to have pretty much a national reputation that we're looking at. So the RFP is interesting, and it'll be the responses will be even more interesting on the methodology that they're going to suggest for the committee when they review the proposals. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I agree, Councilman. I think Mr. Pastu has a follow-up as well, because that was part of the discussion and struggles. Looking at what you stated was exactly what the conversation was, and it's not going to get resolved through I don't believe through a local facilitation. It would be it is a national discussion, but it is also something that's going to have some person with the credentials, expertise that may be there. Mr. Pastu, you have a question, and I want to get
again. Just a follow up on that is that we did talk about in a lot of cases we know where to advertise for the projects that we have, but part of our dialogue with our group was this is a national search. And we've talked about to potentially that, there may have to be, some university involvement with grad students or something engaged with using different survey instruments and techniques to get the essence and the feel of the community and understand that. And So yeah, that's what I have to tell you is a struggle to try to figure out how to put this. And we've at the end, I think, concluded if we're going to do it, it's going to have to be a national search in order to get somebody, because I'm not aware of too many folks in the state of Michigan that would have that have done anything of this magnitude.
Very good. I think at this time, Michelle, I'm sorry, Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, you have some correspondence. If you want to start there, I see we have two hands that are up. And why don't we go to the correspondence that I think were written, knowing that this item was on the agenda. So we'll tie it to these versus the public comment time and later in the meeting. And then we'll go to those that may have something to speak to.
Okay, and Your Honor, I'm quite concerned about the one because it's a section that was lifted from, it looks like from history.com. So it's mostly, and it was published by A&E Television Networks. I'm not worried about that, but what I'm saying is it's a lot of content. So I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to go to the shorter letter first, and then maybe some of the comments, and then I can go back to this one, the longer one.
Yeah, I think when maybe that's the opportunity to have a conversation. We have public comment time, and we do want to hear from the public, and we provide this opportunity. I think we've been generous with that through not just this topic, throughout the years. But to recite what's written somewhere else as a personal view is really not what the public comment is about. It's about hearing a person's individual thoughts and views and what they'd like to see versus a reciting of historical facts from one resource or another, because I think we all can find those as items. We're looking for people's thoughts and feelings and their position versus the historical review. So I agree, Clerk Treasurer, I have full faith. I know that as you have those, they're obviously going to be there for a record for those to review later if need to be, and that in its entirety for review as well. I see Mr. Buds is starting to raise his hand, so make sure that we do want to meet our open meetings. We do want to hear the public. We do want to hear what they have to say, but what that means. Mr. Buds, you need to clarify anything I said? If so, please do, and then I'll have Clerk Treasurer Lavoy start.
No, I think Your Honor, you were right on the right track. What I would say is that the letter should be read, obviously, to meet the communication requirement in the open meeting side. When we get to the part that's pulled clearly from an article, I think for the Clerk Treasurer to give the name of the article and the source where it's from without reading the entire substance, I think would be appropriate under those circumstances.
Thank you. If this present, as we said, all correspondence that's received are available through the open meetings and through the Freedom of Information through the Clerk Treasurer's office. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, if you would.
All right, so I did forward all of these as well to council, just so you should have them in your inboxes. The first letter is Alex Sipo, University of Michigan 2021, College of LSA, BA Mathematics. My name is Alex Sipo, and I've been a resident of Monroe my entire life. I'm writing to you today to urge the removal of the George Armstrong Custer statue from its current location. I'm sure we've all considered the good, which Custer is known for, his ability to rise through the ranks in the Army, his Custer luck, and an impressive record against Confederate forces in the Civil War. I'm also sure we've considered the atrocities for which Custer is ultimately responsible. On a personal level, Custer was placed under arrest and charged with absence without leave from his command, was conduct to the prejudice of good order and military discipline, and he ordered deserters shot without trial and refused medical attention. And that came from a source that I can't see in this email. However, on a larger scale, George Armstrong Custer is ultimately responsible for the murder of over 100 Indians and the deaths of more than 200 of his own soldiers. Not only were we attacking people who were showing resistance to settlers taking over land that was not ours to begin with, Custer still chose to attack the Lakotas and Cheyennes after receiving intelligence that they were fleeing anyway, ultimately foregoing peace and causing the unnecessary death of Native Americans, his men, and himself. I hope we all agree that history is nuanced and complex. Not everything is as black and white as people make it out to be. There's good and bad to most situations as well as most historical figures. However, the good does not cancel out the bad. By placing Custer's statue in such a prominent place at the center of downtown Monroe, we are suggesting to Monroe residents, and perhaps more importantly to outside visitors, that Custer is representative of what we stand for as a city. When we do so, we suggest that Monroe is a city of genocide and white supremacy. As uncomfortable of a term that is for many to read, that is undeniably what Custer stood for and what his statue represents. The debate has been around for a while and is not going anywhere. With support from over 14,000 people on a petition from Katie Beth Davis, this is a task that is long overdue and a task that will not stop receiving attention as long as nothing is done about it. Please do not let the inevitable anger of a small group of uninformed people who do not fully understand Custer's history affect how we handle this issue. For the sake of our city and its history, move it to a museum. Okay, this next one is from Camelia Bright. It doesn't give a location, it just fscj.edu is the email address. I'm going to go ahead because I think it's a good portion of it is from the history URL. It's a history.com, this day in history, Custer Massacre, Cheyenne on Washita River. Access date April 5th, 2021. Publisher A&E Television Networks. Last updated November 23rd, 2020. Original published date November 16th, 2009. George Armstrong Custer Equestrian Monument. Defeated at Greasy Grass or the Battle of Little Bighorn, as it's called in history books. It's often forgotten that Custer was the one who started that fight by attacking an Indian village. It's just the force of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho who finished it. It could also be said that it is because of Custer and the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868 It's because of Custer that the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868 was not abided by and the Black Hills were taken away from the Lakota. He led an expedition there in 1874 and discovered gold, which prompted the U.S. government to violate the treaty, take back the land, and move the Lakota to reservation. Custer is infamously known for the Battle of Little Bighorn on June 25, 1876, as he led an attack against the Lakota and Cheyenne Indians and lost his life. Rather than celebrating those who defeated the genocidal George Armstrong Custer, we celebrate the murderer. This does significant harm to Native children in the area. Here is just one massacre of innocent Native Americans being celebrated by the city of Monroe, Michigan in 1868 on November 27. Colonel George Custer Massacre, Cheyenne on Washita River. Without bothering to identify the village or do any recon, Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer led an early morning attack on a band of peaceful Cheyenne living with cheap black kettle. Convicted of desertion and mistreatment of soldiers earlier that year in a military court, the government has suspended Custer from rank and command for 1 year. 10 months into his punishment in September 1868, General Philip Sheridan reinstated Custer to lead a campaign against Cheyenne Indians who had been making raids in Kansas and Oklahoma that summer. Sheridan was frustrated by the inability of his other officers to find and engage the enemy, and despite his poor record and unpopularity with the men of the 7th Cavalry, Custer was a good fighter. Sheridan determined that a campaign in winter might prove more effective since the Indians could be caught off guard while in their permanent camp. On November 26, Custer located a large village of Cheyenne encamped near the Washita River, just outside the present-day Cheyenne, Oklahoma. Custer did not attempt to identify which group of Cheyenne was in the village or to make even a cursory recon of the situation. Had he done so, Custer would have discovered they were peaceful people and the village was on reservation soil where the commander of Fort Cobb had guaranteed them safety. There was even a white flag flying from one of the main dwellings indicating the tribe was actively avoiding conflict. Having surrounded the village the night before at dawn, Custer called for the regimental band to play Gary Owen, which signaled the 4 columns of soldiers to charge into the sleeping village. Outnumbered and caught unaware, a score of Cheyenne were killed in the first 15 minutes of the battle, though a small number of the warriors managed to escape the trees and return to the trees and return fire. Within a few hours, the village was destroyed. The children killed 103 Cheyenne, including the peaceful Black Kettle and many women and children. Hailed as the first substantial American victory in the Indian Wars, the Battle of the Washita helped to restore Custer's reputation and succeeded in persuading many Cheyenne to move to the reservation. However, Custer's habit of charging Native American encampments of unknown strength would eventually lead him to his death at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Now just imagine how you would feel if your hometown advocated for your genocide and celebrated the leader of such a genocide. Let your city be known for something positive. And those are the letters I have. There was one other letter received, but the request was not made to read it out loud. So that one was also forwarded to all of council members, and city manager passed through as well. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
I see we have 2 hands, so if we could start with the first one you see, and then we'll move through that. Thank you.
Mr. Mika.
Mr. Mika, please identify yourself, residency, and your 3 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. Hope you can hear me. Richard Mika, Monroe, Michigan. Let's take this issue from a more practical matter. I have been here for a number of years, and the issue of maintenance on the Custer Monument has been something of a ongoing issue for many, many years. And there's been private money go to pay for the cleanup of the monument and for maintenance of it and restoration. All things have got a life expectancy. I don't know what the expectancy is of a monument made of bronze, I don't know how thick it is or whatever, but there may have to be something done about that to take a look at how long do we expect this thing to live, if you will. So just keep that in mind. Keeping it in good repair is a real challenge, and the city has done an admirable job of it, maintaining it since the first time people got involved and got concerned about all of the bronze immaterial being all over the thing, what they call that stuff. So this illustrates that what the people in Monroe have thought about it to protect that monument, to keep it in good shape. And but going out with an RFQ to another Custer element throughout the country, it's hard to find people. It's either you're for him or against him. And I think Mr. Icoangeli had it right. I mean, it's a divisive issue. No matter how you go throughout the country, you'll find that. So if you put the RFQs out, I'll bet it comes back 50% one way and 50% the other way. It's a kind of an interesting situation. Now, the final thing I would like to say is that the family that I know very well is very interested in this, and they would like to have something to say about it. So please include the family. I'll be happy to give you their name, address, or whatever, but please to include them in that process. And just keep in mind that impartiality now is a victim of cancel culture. Thank you all for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mika. maybe there's a clarification, and Mr. Pastu can join in if he finds necessary, but the RFQ isn't going out to find opposing views. It's to find I'll just say a facilitator that can bring the views forward and then provide a input to the city council regarding not only the monument. It's not the monument itself, it's the items in discussion around the monument, its placement, and the facts of what that represents. I think that's what is looking to be facilitated. So I guess if we received reports back from an RFQ and one said, well, I think it's this or I think it's that, those aren't going to be party to the selection, in my view, because you need to see how they're going to facilitate a discussion to get to resolution for all considerations and all points of view. Clerk Treasurer, I think we have a hand up, and we'll continue along that, please.
We do. I will move them. All right, there he goes.
Cole, if you would, identify please and jurisdiction of residence, and welcome.
Hi, yeah, Cole, City of Monroe. So yeah, obviously you all know my opinion on this matter. I've been at nearly every council meeting since June when this started. I'd just like to address some of the language that's been used tonight. The quote, two polar extremes on this issue that were represented and appear to be unyielding in their position. A few days ago, I was listening back to the original statements given on June 15th, 2020 about the statue. And contrary to Mayor Clark's claims this evening, our position has always been one of compromise, so long as some kind of change happens. So if you go back and listen to Katie Best's comments today, that's what you'll hear, June 15th. Using language like this manipulates public opinion by suggesting that repairing relationships with local indigenous communities is somehow extreme, or that moving or relocating or removing a statue that has been moved several times is also somehow extreme. The only folks so far that have offered no compromise are the folks saying, don't touch it, don't move it, don't change it. Another statement made in your document about the city needs to assess whether a broad community census can be achieved through the RFQ process, or if it's just a waste of time, money, effort, etc. I think obviously any conversation had by a minority group about the pain in their community that their community might be causing is not a waste of time. And to highlight it that way shows a predisposition to being kind of against the proposition. I think with such divisive opinions on this topic, obviously no solution is going to appease absolutely everyone in the city. As leaders of the community, part of that responsibility of shouldering the burden is on you. And finally, the suggestion for the November public vote, I want to thank Councilman Icoangeli for the comments. I also do think it would be divisive. I don't think it would help our situation, as our community is about 90% white, and I don't think that they really can speak to the issues of a minority group. The people fighting for their rights and dignity and safety here are in the minority, so they wouldn't necessarily win a vote if it went along more racial divides. If every city catered to its population on human rights issue, we would end up with pockets in this country where minorities could be targeted for crime simply because the majority of population allowed it. This is why we have a general national consensus on things when it comes to human rights. And nearly a year ago, when we addressed City Council to request the statue's removal or relocation or an update, the argument that was made was that you needed more information, that you needed to spend time considering the ins and outs, the history. And I know that you have done so, and I hope that you continue to do so. But with a November vote, are you confident that the city of Monroe, all of its citizens, have put in the same amount of effort as you to learn the history, the full history? Do you think they have Native rights in their hearts? Because given our reception at our protests and in the paper, I think everyone here wouldn't know what that answer is in your heart, how that might go. And I do think I want to support finding someone who can be impartial to advise, to help make that decision. And I would strongly suggest it be someone from the Native community and let them guide us in this largely white city, how we're going to represent their history and their culture. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Collier. 3+ minutes. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
Okay, there's quite a few hands that have gone up, so I'll just go in order.
Sure, right down the line.
All right. All right.
Edmund.
Hi, folks. Thanks. I'm going to try to keep this pretty short. I wanted to address one point that was raised by Mr. Micka. A bronze statue can last almost forever, sir. Just so you're aware of that. We've got them a couple thousand years old, so we may have Custer for a long time if we just leave him there. But I wanted to address one of the issues where I want to make sure we've got some consistency here. When I first became aware that there was a desire to remove and destroy the Custer Monument, as a historian who knows quite a bit about General Custer, teaches about General Custer both in the Indian Wars and in the Civil War, I was against that. I am still against just removing and destroying the statue, but I am equally against simply leaving it there without historic interpretation or any sort of comment about what we're looking at. So there is a middle ground. That middle ground is easy to arrive at, and I wanted to remind the community and the council here once again that involves a process of sitting the community down and asking where is the best location for the statue, what is the best thing we can do to interpret and correct the errors around the statue and the harm the statue is doing to members of our community. I think it would be useful to call in someone who can help organize conversations like that, but I'd also remind you that our own college has a history of organizing and hosting conversations on controversial topics where the goal is not to get one extreme viewpoint or another extreme viewpoint, but to help guide people towards an understanding of where the middle ground is. We also have the National Park Service here, who has done a phenomenal job of helping to guide these conversations as well in the past. So I think there's lots of opportunity to talk through this. And you're right, it's not about changing people's view of the facts. The facts are clear. We are dealing with a complicated human being. The questions we need to be asking ourselves is how can we get people to let go of their harsh attacks? Calling it cancel culture to want to correct the historic record is inaccurate. Declaring that we have to destroy a work of art and a monument just because of the past mistakes of a man who does have some good aspects to his past as well may also be incorrect. But let's look at this historically, calmly. I think our community can walk through it. But again, having a vote is just going to pit the will of the majority against the will of the minority, and it will make the situation considerably worse. So I just wanted to go and say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund. Clerk.
All right, next. Okay.
Okay, Julie, you're mindful of your 3 minutes and also your name and representation here. Thank you.
Manogishket, Nishkan Kirokwa, and Dijnikas, but boy, one me and down, Pokagan Band in the Douglas, Lawrence, Michigan, and Dochbia, Dowajak, Michigan, Odopi, and Deda.
My name is Julie Dye. I'm a Pokagon Band Potawatomi tribal elder from Dowagiac, Michigan. So just a reminder that Native Americans were once the majority there. Consider why we're less than 1% in Monroe. It's because of settlers like Custer. The monument protests last summer brought attention from all 12 of the federally recognized tribes of Michigan and other state organizations. So tonight I'm hearing you talk about, the abuse of children, educational systems and programming to improve education, money to enhance education. So you're silently signaling to the children of Monroe what's important to you in the statute that glorifies war and heroinizes a mass murderer. I would examine just what you're teaching with that statute, where it is, with your inaction so far, because your kids will most likely leave for higher education to colleges and universities where they'll learn the truth. Cities and towns all over the country, as it has been stated, are dealing with propaganda that's disguised as public art. And you're becoming a multicultural community where people of all races, ethnicities, and religions, all persuasions should feel welcome. So, I would agree with John's comments earlier. Putting racism on the ballot in November is not the way to go. And the only culture that's being canceled here were the indigenous people that were there at one time. Our bones are in the ground. Our blood is in the soil in Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Clerk Treasurer, I think there's one more hand up.
There is. Okay, oops. There we go. Okay.
Cody, if you would, please.
Hello.
Name and location, please.
Monroe. I live on South Macomb Street in downtown Monroe. I would like to say that I agree with Councilmember John Lacangeli. I do believe that a public vote would likely be unproductive and more divisive. I do agree that greater public education would be of benefit. I do believe also that the Monroe County Community College could be a good site for such public discussions. I would recommend contacting President Kojo Quarty and maybe corroborating with him. I believe that there should be a more objective analysis of the legacy of General Custer and the purpose of the statue, as well as the psychological impact that that statue has on others who are aware of his actions and the impact in the actions he participated in. I do know that there are many Native American people who do not feel welcome in Monroe because of that statue. Not only the people who are native to the Great Lakes area, but I do know that at least a few Lakota people who see families move to Michigan during the auto boom who have similar feelings as well. And I believe that their perspectives and voices would also be a benefit in any public conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to the council at this time, because obviously it's a item that appears on our council action. So I want to go back to the council here for their, I'll say, input and action and vote this evening. Obviously the discussion is there, and the administration is really looking to get the solidify the direction of moving forward. Obviously we have the RFQ that was submitted, and Mr. Pastu is asking whether this should be moved forward and sent out, or some other initiative taken, or as was stated, is it something that's a public comment? So either council can have further comments, or there can be a motion regarding action, and we'll see where it falls. Councilman Michelangeli.
Your Honor, I would make a motion that we proceed with the issuance of the request for qualifications, and based on comments that we've heard tonight, make sure that the Monroe County Community College is in receipt of the proposal in the event that they would like to be involved as a facilitator. That's my motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. So looking to council, there's a motion which requires a second. The motion is to move forward. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Felder, was that yourself?
Second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Felder, giving direction to the administration to move forward with the RFQ and additionally ensure that notice is given to the community college as well, but that this go out to the publicize, I'll just say from, as has been previously discussed, is what I hear. Other comments from council?
Councilman Lamore has a hand up.
Oh, Councilman Lamore, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with what you said previously, Your Honor, regarding having any kind of facilitating person being from out of Monroe. I don't think we can get a fair judgment from anybody that's in Monroe or Monroe County for that matter regarding Custer or anywhere that was related to Custer. So that would be my reason for not supporting that action, is because if you're asking the Monroe County Community College to facilitate this, I'm not certain if you're going to get an unbiased decision from anybody that is within the Monroe County Community College based on the fact that they are from this region.
I guess I'll make a comment to that, and I see Councilman Felder has his hand up. So I look at it this way, you know, Councilman Michelangelo didn't say to be the selected group. They're saying that they receive it. And I think that'll be entertained along with any other proposal that may come in from a national perspective. And I think it will rise or fall based on that criteria of what we're trying to achieve and looking to achieve of that community involvement. I can't say that the community college couldn't facilitate it. It's who they would select as facilitator if it went through there. And that would be if they choose to respond and be a participant. I think that's where the analysis comes in, is not the location, but how is it going to be proceeded? Any report comes back and it would say, this is who we are, this is who will be the lead, here's who's going to do this right down the line, and this is what the intent would be and how they'd go about. That's, I think, what would have to be reviewed. I think it's no different than some of the other RFPs we get back. And from a development standpoint, this isn't about building an infrastructure. This is about building the community. So I think it's feasible. I wouldn't be opposed if it went to the college. They would have to respond along with anybody else. Councilman Felder, and then we have a motion and a second on the floor, but I do want to get comments as follow-up.
Yep, just want to make a couple of quick points before council members have an opportunity to vote. I think regardless of what direction we go forward on, whether we have a professional facilitator over this discussion or not, it's still important that we have the discussion in a public and inclusive way.
Right.
So I think it's almost worthwhile contacting the college, even if the vote is no, and see in terms of how we can proceed in that manner. You know, I want to mention, just because comments were brought up, I'm not necessarily in favor of the public referendum in November, but far be it from me to determine what the committee's decision is before they've arrived at it. It's a procedural point to make. So yeah, I absolutely believe the discussion is critically important to have in either case. But I suppose we can at least, you know, see what the firms come back with, and then vote on whether we want to proceed with any of the options that are presented there. I suppose it's asking my colleagues to vote yes on this. We'll take a look at what options are presented to us, and I think we'll have some more decisions to make in front of us.
Thank you, Councilman. Just like any other item that goes out, it comes back and it gets council's review for a vote when it talks about how we facilitate it. Councilman Michelangelo, you made the motion, so I'll give you the last opportunity to review your thoughts, and then we'll take a vote.
Thank you, Your Honor. And you need to help me out here. What's the during the I know that you've been on it. What is it called? The journey of understanding?
Yeah, journey toward understanding. Absolutely.
Okay. So, you know, based on the information that we've heard from Mr. Bentley, who's the superintendent at the National Park, there's a real effort by the National Park and by the Native American tribes to come back to Monroe, to some of their indigenous areas that they originally were here. So I want to make sure in the RFP that we clearly specify that part of the stakeholder groups need to be the various Native American tribes that used to live in Southeast Michigan that may no longer have a presence here, but their tribal bands are located outside the state. But I want to make sure that as part of the discussion, we make sure that we discuss this with the various Native American tribes that were in Southeast Michigan prior to their relocation out of the state of Michigan.
I think that's a good point. I think as we move forward with that, as it comes back, I think if it's not within the RFP currently, that we maybe, I'm sure Mr. Pastu is taking notes as we finalize that before it, if passed, if that goes out. I think it's some items and the outreach, of course, with Superintendent Bentley and the journey toward understanding our trips to with the Wyandotte tribe and the Wyandotte tribe visits back here, back to their original lands. I think has benefited those discussions, relations, and also there's been improvements within the state of Michigan regarding while just starting regarding resource books and telling other stories. And that's the philosophy and the bottom line at the national park, which I think we've talked about as well, is telling all stories in full perspective. And I don't think that's ever been lost to this discussion. Mr. Pastor, I don't know if you had a comment before we take the vote. If not, I'm going to move forward.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, and the motion is that the RFQ or RFP goes out and receive the responses back, and then we'll come back to council for that final review and approval. No further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Wilmore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Thank you for all the time, both from the council, those that called in, those that wrote. I think it moves the item forward from where the discussion was for a while now regarding the RFQ. Once we get that sent out, we'll continue to give updates on the timelines as the administration works on the final submission. And of course, I'll leave that to Mr. Pastu to speak about when it goes out and where that can be found by the public through the clerk's office and available to see what the final write-up is. And I think I'll just stop there because there's probably more to it than that Mr. Pastu can respond to at an appropriate time. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $1,202,414.44. 202,414.44.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Michael Ansley.
I thought we pulled item 3084 off the consent agenda and put it under council. Isn't that what we did?
Well, we didn't pull it. I think we have to do that now because I don't think when we did the I'm looking at the clerk. Did we pull it already?
No, we mentioned that it should be pulled and
it should be pulled. Okay.
Yeah,
so now would be the time for the items on the consent agenda to ensure that item 3084 is pulled, and we'll handle that separate.
I'll pull through item 3084.
Thank you. I'll just ask if there's any other items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion. Any comments from those or requests from those present this evening? Items on the consent agenda they wish to have pulled for further discussion. I see no hands, so a motion would be in order.
Your Honor.
Councilman Felder.
I would make a motion that all items on the consent agenda not pulled for further discussion be accepted, placed on file, and recommendations adopted and resolutions carried out.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the consent agenda except item 3084 be accepted, placed on file, recommendations adopted and resolutions carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Wilmore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
So the next item will be item 3084, front door repairs at River Raisin National Battlefield Park Education Center.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu or Mr.
Go
Cochran?
ahead, Mr. Cochran, introduce the item. Thank you, Your Honor.
There you go. Thank you. Mark?
Honorable Mayor, City Council. The reason we requested that this item be pulled for consideration is because the original item that was submitted with the agenda packet listed a quote from Interstate Commercial Glass and Door that included two options for the closers. After we sent that out, we realized that the option was selected, and therefore we removed on that quote item number 3, which was the entry grade closers at a cost of $1,625. So we're asking that the amount be amended for this item and be changed to a total of $15,112 plus a 10% contingency, which makes it a total of $16,623 to be encumbered for the project.
Mark, what was the first amount?
The total amount?
The 15,000, what was that?
15,112.
Okay.
You're asking for less money.
Yeah, yeah. Right, yeah.
That's good.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Interstate Glass and Door Company and regarding the purchase of a new doors for the National Battlefield Park Education Center in the amount of $15,112 with a contingency for a total amount of $16,623.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Klein, supported by Councilman Felder on item 3084 to be approved, authorized with the lesser amount noted. I see there's 2 hands up. Councilman Lamore, and then I'll go to Mr. Cochran for some clarification.
Yeah, thank you. Now that we've got this up on the floor, just a quick question. Was there any local bids entertained for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there was 2 listed on the fact sheet, and neither one of them were capable of completing the duties and made no submission. That's a good point to make, because we do look at that. And with the 2 that were local, did not submit a bid. Mr. Cochran?
Yeah, just an item for clarification. There's actually 2 bids that we need to accept for that total. One was with the Interstate Glass and Door Company, and then Integrity Automatic Doors, the firm that's able to complete the repairs to the handicap accessibility system.
I'll change the motion to add Integrity Automatic Door LLC.
The amendment.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cochran, because it was a kind of a combined bid. Each could do a portion of what the job entailed and was able to get it done with both of them. So thank you. Other comments? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
All right, I have no other items, Your Honor.
Thank you. So we're council comments. It is April. Councilwoman Germaini, comments this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to congratulate Oaks Village for their village market that opened, much needed down in that neighborhood. Also, the health hub at the Opportunity Center at the ALCC with the help of the Family Medical Center. And now we're getting a laundromat. So all needed things for that community, which I'm very excited that those are opening. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. My condolences go out to the family of Ken Miller. Ken passed away this past Friday. Ken was a City of Monroe CPC member and a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a long time in the City of Monroe. Ken brought a zest and determination to all meetings that he attended, and I appreciate him challenging me to be a civic leader in our community. Ken will be missed by the City of Monroe. Thank you.
Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, it was terrible to hear about Ken Miller's passing. That was really too bad. As with Councilwoman Germaini, I attended the both the grand opening of Oaks Village and the MCOP Health Hub, though the only one that saw me at the Health Hub was Councilwoman Vining, who also showed up late. Trying to squeeze it all into a day. Sometimes you can make it happen, sometimes you can't. Happy Easter to everybody. And then a while back, after the Capitol attacks, I think that we had discussed putting forth a resolution of condemnation I think that there's language floating out there as to that. If we could bring that forward to our next work session for some discussion, I would appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have for this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitman.
I really have no comments except that I really hope that everyone had a wonderful, happy Easter.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangelo.
Yeah, thanks, Your Honor. I would like to recommend that the City Council consider a resolution of support for the county historic millage, which has been very important and has had really, they've had some really great results, and we've seen some real benefits from that millage throughout the county relative to the preservation of our history. The city has been the recipient of several grants, one of which was featured in the newspaper about a week ago. That was the restoration of the Memorial Park Cemetery. That was done through a grant through this county historic preservation millage. So I'm just suggesting that if council can see fit that we pass a resolution in support of that millage that's also coming up in May. And then lastly, my comment, regarding the passing of Ken Miller, we also lost last week Ben Tellerico, who was the former community development director for the city of Monroe for a while. And then Ben was the president of the urban group, and he provided consulting services to the city probably over the last 5 or 6 years. Ben had a extremely notable track record in the state of Michigan as a planner and also as an educator. He taught at, I think, 7 or 8 universities, planning primarily. His 2 state universities was Eastern Michigan, where he taught both the undergrad and graduate program, and then at Wayne State, where he taught the graduate program in political science and in urban planning. Ben was a good friend of mine. He'll be missed, but his thumbprints, his fingerprints are all over the city of Monroe based on the work that he did both as a consultant and as a director. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilman. I just have a couple comments. Some have been said, but I also want to kind of reinforce that. I appreciate Councilman Michelangelo first on the museum millage. I think it's something we can speak with I'll speak with the administration on about our next meeting. There's many examples of that, and I think what the county museum has shown since obtaining the original millage was a real broad countywide message about all history, and they are making improvements as they go along, and in their engagement and the discussions very similar to what we've already had tonight. So I think we'll see about that for our next meeting. Mr. Tellerico, I think your comments are well in line for Ben. I think back many years ago, my first engagement with the city of Monroe was on the planning commission, and to see him come to that and make presentations, I think about all he's done over the decades for the city. He was not just a great resource, he's a great champion for the city of Monroe, and did have a footprint and a fingerprint on much of what we've done and achieved. And so he will be missed, and my condolences to his family. Equally, Mr. Ken Miller and his service, not only the community here, even before that and his passing, but we lose people as we go, but we also gain people as we go. And I look forward to remembering those that we've lost, but also the things they put in place that makes us a better community. There was an item I'll stop by. I did get a chance while I was not able to go to the opening for the Oaks Village store. I was able to get there last week with Councilwoman Vining and speak with Pastor Boone. What a great little shop and store. And I think it is servicing the community, just as Councilwoman Germaini said. And we've heard of other things that are starting to open up. We talk about those access to core services, something that's long been facilitated an opportunity to be a participant with SEMCOG of identifying all these locations that do not have access and how we move forward. So I look forward to more of that throughout our community of how we make these accessible, which gives me to one point which I had that's been announced. It was in Monroe News as well. And Councilwoman Germaini may want to follow up with what Lake Erie Transit is currently providing free ride service to those that need to get vaccinated. And they will, and not only do you get your bus ride to get vaccinated if you're going to the college or wherever it might be and back, you get a free day pass for all day. So you can kind of bundle your trips to whether it be at a grocery store, whether it be to the Oaks Village, whether it be to a doctor's visit or some other special service you need. There's ways to get and plan that through the day. And I know that the Lake Erie Transit is very receptive to making sure people get vaccinated, but also they get moved forward opportunities to make those access. So my kudos to Lake Erie Transit and their services they provide all the time, but also in this fashion as well. And also recently, with the Southeast Michigan Community Alliance, Michigan Works, SEMCA, they provided a letter which I will forward along, and it came at the end of last week. SEMCA Michigan Works is offering, and they've had it in the past, it's called Paid Work Experience, PWE, program that offers students and young adults a chance to earn while they learn. And so those qualified applicants between the age of 14 to 24 can get into a pathway, into a critical experience that benefits and learns a job they may be able to do for beyond that. The hourly wage, I should say, in this is from $11 to $14 an hour. It's this 8 to 16 week program, but they're finding that employers that are accepting the SEMCA workers will continue to be employed after that as well. It's a great opportunity. There's you can go to the SEMCA website, which is www, of course, SEMCA, SEMCA.org, and just look for youth and interest in the forms for the opportunities here. I know that it's been publicized elsewhere and moving this along. The last thing I did get an opportunity to Clerk Lavoie, myself, Mr. Cochran, trying to think who else was there because there were 2 shifts. We were able to get to the health hub and got the early hour. What a great movement forward in our partnership with the MCOP at the ALCC and that progression there. Just some items that I wanted to bring up that I think are really happening within our community, trying to make our community accessible for the needs that they may have. And some of those are done obviously publicly, but also privately. And look forward to the open house in May with the laundromat and the clinic as we move forward. So I think I'll stop there. And Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
I told Mike Smith that I would share some of the statistics that he didn't have time for. That we see the pinwheel gardens spring up all around Monroe County this time of the year. Obviously, we had the proclamation tonight, but just some reality behind those numbers and behind those pinwheels. In 2020, Monroe CPS investigated 887 complaints of child abuse and neglect. 194 of those cases had confirmed abuse, neglect in the household, which resulted in about 290 child victims in these cases. So it's something that's happening here in Monroe County, and those are just cases that were reported and were investigated. There's so many others that go unreported. It's definitely an underreported problem. So every time you look at a pinwheel and every time you help with the problem, you're impacting not just the lives immediately in this situation, but you're impacting the future, because we know that stopping the cycle of abuse does make a difference. And we've talked a lot tonight about making things better for today, but also for the future. And the proclamation that was issued earlier was to call attention to an ongoing problem. And it's just another way to try to make that better. So Mike Smith left some other information. I'll pass that along to Jody Egan, and perhaps some of it can be shared on the city's social media. Other than that, we continue to move forward with the elections. Absentee balloting is continuing to happen, and we had an election commission meeting earlier tonight to set up election inspectors for the precincts. So I just want to lay any concerns that I've heard recently. There is no intention of closing any precincts. They will be open, but of course, anyone who wants to avail themselves of absentee voting, we are here Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and we can facilitate that for you as well. And our drop box, this is another concern that I've heard. Our drop box is checked several times throughout the day. So if you put your payment in, or if you put your absentee application in, and just drop it in there rather than come in the building, that's fine. We will get to it. Again, it's checked several times during the day, first thing in the morning, end of day before we leave, throughout the day. And then on the weekends, I also do come in and check it as well. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Clerk Treasurer. Mr. Pastu.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. Couple of items. One is I greatly appreciate the dialogue tonight with council regarding the Custer monument. I think that was very helpful from a city administration standpoint. But I also want to talk about the collaboration with Mayor Clark, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Andy Clark, and Mr. Egan. That I'm the one that pushed pretty high. I'm the one that pushed this issue, whether to put it on the ballot or not. So I did have input and dialogue with them, but sometimes I get a little pushy and impatient, and that's on me. And so I think tonight's dialogue was very, very helpful in this issue as well. The other thing with it is of interest is talking about stakeholders and indigenous tribes that were here and located. The mayor and I actually had a discussion about that here in the last week, in the context of the RFQ. So with that, I appreciate it. The other thing I'm going to have Mark, if we can make Mark a co-host, there's dialogue in Washington regarding possible earmarks, if you will, and we want to review that with you very quickly. So Mark, if you could just go through that real quick.
Sure. Did you want me to share the document that I showed you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes
okay.
it easier.
Would that be community projects?
Yes. So as Mr. Pastu mentioned, as I'm pulling this up, there is a movement in the House that the House of Representatives is allowing directed discretionary community project funding requests as part of the 2022 federal budget. That's a long way of saying earmarks are back, basically. But we've been monitoring the process as it's moved through the House and had discussions with Representative Wahlberg's office, as well as reaching out to Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow's office as well about what the process is going to look like for submitting requests. The Appropriations Committee has opened it up for members to submit at least 10 or a maximum of 10 projects per district. And each office is free to, in the House, is free to set up the process as they see fit. And so we reached out to Representative Wahlberg's office to find out what process and procedures they have in place for communities to request community project funding as part of the federal budget. And we received the guidance over the weekend. And so I put together a memo with the key takeaways. I'm not going to read through it. I'd be happy to send this out if you'd like. But Representative Wahlberg's office is accepting requests from communities and organizations by the close of business on April 14th. That's a very short turnaround deadline to submit requests next week. Each organization is allowed to submit one request. I will say 2 weeks ago, the city, Mr. Pastu, Mayor Clark, Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, forgive me if I'm missing anybody else, met with our partners at the county as well as the port in the Monroe County BDC to start putting our heads together on what possible projects we would like to submit when this call came out. And we had narrowed it down to a list of projects, but then the guidance actually came out from the Appropriations Committee. Each subcommittee of the Appropriations Overall Committee set up what they're going to allow requests from. So there's certain agencies that you're allowed to submit requests to and very specific funds that you're allowed to submit requests to. So we had to reshift focus today. I met with Mayor Clark and Mr. Pastu to talk about what the guidelines have been laid out, and then met with or had conversations with some of our other partners this afternoon about the requests that each of us can submit, since we're only allowed to submit one, even though obviously we all know that there's a litany of different projects that we would like to submit for funding for. So going through, there were the projects that we narrowed down today. Of course, there's been a lot of press, a lot of discussion about the needs for enhanced security and screening materials and infrastructure at the Port of Monroe to allow for international cargo screening to occur at the port. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the news reports, and we've had a lot of discussions about that here. And so we would like to submit one request as part of the Department of Transportation, local transportation priorities. That sounds like a very big umbrella, but there's very specific criteria of projects that you can submit. And under the Safety Lieu Act that was passed in the early 2000s, safety and safety enforcement facilities related to international trade is an allowable submission. So I did talk to Mr. Lamar today, and the city is going to support their submission for an earmark or community project funding request to move that across the goalpost, hopefully get funded. We did talk about the Orchard East Greenway Trail that's part of the Heritage Corridor Master Plan. Department of Transportation is going to allow for recreational trail projects that are eligible under Section 206. This trail would connect the national park with the International Wildlife Refuge and improve the trail network throughout the rest of the Heritage Corridor and the Heritage Trail. And so we're going to work with the River Raisin National Battlefield Park Foundation to submit that request. As they are a nonprofit, they're able to apply and submit a project to Representative Wahlberg, though they will need a letter of support from the city supporting their application. A couple other projects that we've talked about is a citywide security camera system. There is an appropriation available through the Department of Justice COPS program. So we weighed that project as well as the St. Mary's Stormwater project through the EPA State and Tribal Assistant Grant Program. There is a cost share requirement from that. And as you know, we've had a lot of discussion lately about the American Recovery Act funding that project. We also looked at the lead and copper line replacement project. And of course, we've got a plan with our utilities to address that over the next several years. But we're also moving through with the Opportunity Center and Navarre Library Space Analysis and through the HUD Economic Development Initiatives. It does allow for the improvement of and construction and capital improvements of public facilities. And so what we're proposing is to support the port's application for Homeland Security and Department of Transportation security screening equipment, to submit one application through the Battlefield Foundation for the Greenway Trail through the Heritage Corridor. And then also the city's submission would be requesting funding to implement recommendations that would come out of the Opportunity Center and Navarre Library Space Analysis, whatever that may look like. And so we will put a placeholder together as well as a funding request for that project. One of the other things that we're going to do is reach out to our partners at the county and have a discussion with them about our discussions with our federal legislators about earmarks, community project funding, and find out what they would like to submit a request for and figure out how we can support them as they seek funding for projects outside the city that could inevitably have a positive impact on our city as well. So given that it's a very tight deadline, that these applications and projects are due to the representative's office by next Thursday, these were the discussions that we had today and wanted to run this past you and get your thoughts, keeping in mind that there are very narrow accounts that we're allowed to make application to, and it's a pretty comprehensive list. I'll say I spent a good amount of my morning this morning cross-referencing a lot of different federal laws and to determine what eligible projects are. As it's listed kind of vague through the appropriations subcommittee's fact sheets and websites. So.
Thanks, Mark. It's a great review and very quickly, but an excellent review of what was there. I'll just see if there's any comment from council. I think that the analysis and the work done puts forward projects we've all talked about and has been on our priority list, and it gives us some options of what's being submitted. So I see no comments.
I will caution and say, this is just the movement through the House. Obviously, the budget starts in the House and moves on to the Senate, and having discussions with our Senate partners, it's undetermined at this time what would actually make it forward to the president's desk and what the president's priorities are. But we've already made that initial reach to the other side of the Capitol to let them know that we're going to have some requests that we're going to be putting forward, and we'll see where they go.
Thank you again. Great for the work. Thanks for the work. Mr. Pastu, anything further?
No, nothing else, Your Honor. Appreciate it, Mark.
Okay. Councilwoman Whitman, you have a comment?
I didn't want to forget to remind everyone to keep Trooper Herman Brown's family. And he went on vacation in Florida and, ended up getting COVID-19 and within 2 weeks, he had passed away. So there's a lot of people that are in shock. He was very well liked. So I just wanted to remind everyone to keep his family in your prayers.
Thank you, Councilwoman. 57 years old, and we talk about we're not through our issues, concerns, and how we go about through COVID. And we see the numbers rise, and we see what's happening in the schools. One trip, and then next thing you know, 2 weeks later, and being on an event, and you pass away. This could happen to anybody. But we just need to continue to be diligent about what we're doing and have diligence on what we're doing, because it just could occur anywhere. My heartfelt thoughts lost to Mr. Trooper Brown's family as well. Clerk Treasurer, I think next is citizens' comments. If there's any further citizen comments, now would be the time. If I see no hands.
I don't see any hands. Oh, there is a hand. Oh, there's a couple. There's 3 so far.
Well, we'll start down the list then.
So now there's 2.
Okay.
So I'll just monitor it. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
So
we'll just go in order.
Okay, and as we do on all public comment times, be mindful of their time. Or your name, please, and your jurisdiction of residence, and 3 minutes. Nathaniel, I think you're first.
Magwitz, Buju, Natspur, and Dijnakas, Bodway-Wadamy, and Dow. My name is Nat Spur. Nat is short for Nathaniel. I'm a resident of the Pine Creek Indian Reservation in Athens, Michigan. So although I don't live within the jurisdictional boundaries of the state of Michigan, I'm still a resident of the state. I grew up about 45 minutes north of Monroe in Grosse Pointe Park, Michigan. I moved back to Michigan in 2007, so 14 years ago. I'm an enrolled member of the Huron-Potawatomi tribe. Our official name is the Nottawasippi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. Again, we're based in Athens, Michigan. And although I live on federal trust land, I am a resident of the state. I wanted to point out a few things. I have a very positive view of the city of Monroe, or I grew up with one. I was a distance runner in high school, distance runner in college. And then I later came back to coach after I moved back to the state of Michigan. And I was a distance runner coach for my high school track team. And, at the time when I was a freshman in high school in 1992, and our team went to the state championships, we finished 26 out of 27 teams. Monroe won the state championship that year. I watched Todd Williams, who was a Monroe native, competed in the Olympics in 1992 in Barcelona, and then in 1996 when it was held in Atlanta. So I had a very positive view of Monroe, but I think this is not positive. I mean, a lot of things have changed since 1910 when the statue was constructed. I mean, for one, we as Native Americans didn't have citizenship. We were not U.S. citizens until 1924. We didn't get the right to vote in every state until well over a half century after that. But some things haven't changed. When it comes to military service, and this is a military statute that we're talking about, Native Americans do not take a backseat to any race or ethnicity when it comes to U.S. military service. We have a higher percentage of Native Americans that serve in the U.S. Armed Forces than we do of the U.S. population. My grandfather was a full-blooded member of the Bad River, Wisconsin Chippewa, right up at the northern edge of Wisconsin on the shores of Lake Superior. He and his brothers were stationed at Fort Custer during World War II and proudly served this country. Ironically, they served at Fort Custer, and that's how my grandfather was able to meet my grandmother, who was a full-blooded member of my tribe, the Nottawasippi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. So, we have the highest percentage of any ethnicity that's serving in the armed forces. So our opinion, and when I say our opinion, I mean that of all Native American citizens, we have our opinion on this does matter. and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, Mr. Mayor and city council members, because I'm not a resident of Monroe, but I am a member of a Potawatomi Nation, and of all the tribes that at one time occupied Monroe County or the city of Monroe, the Potawatomi tribes are the only ones that are still located here in Michigan. Julie Dye spoke about this earlier tonight, and I'm speaking about this now. But we want to have a positive view of Monroe. We don't want the symbol of Monroe to be a war criminal, a killer of Native American, elderly people, men, women, and children. And I think the city of Monroe can do better than that. As I said, I had a positive view of the city growing up, and I think this is one thing. And I commend you for the work that you've already done on this, and I appreciate that. So in my language, miigwech, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Nathaniel. Clerk Treasurer?
All right. Next.
Graham, if you identify yourself, please, and start your 3 minutes.
Graham Denton, Monroe, Michigan. Just wanted to highlight that this project has now increased in awareness. The following organizations have agreed to support the relocation: the Michigan Coalition Against Racism in Sports and Media, Idle No More Michigan, the Anishibek Caucus of the MDP, Concerned Citizens of Monroe County and Allies, NASCO, or Native American Student Community Organization Movement, Monroe County Positive Action Network. I believe 2 city council members are members of that organization. And the Native Justice Coalition, which you most likely received in your inbox just now. That's a hub, by the way, for 26 different organizations. So they're all watching and they're waiting. And that's great, because we've just reached out locally. We haven't even started with regional or national yet. And so that audience will probably soon be watching as well. I just want to remind everyone that Portland didn't need a discussion to rename Custer Park. They simply did the right thing and removed a symbol that was oppressive to certain communities. All of this is just a stall tactic to the main discussion of Monroe's relationship to minority communities. As Councilman John stated before, that's where this goes. That's where we're taking it. This is just the beginning. And as you got the letter on the airport, you'll see that it's going full speed ahead. So thoughts and feelings, right? Well, look at those 2 groups that you mentioned who are opposed. One says, don't erase our history. Another says, do not oppress and psychologically harm us. Do those 2 reasons sound like they have equal merit and weight? Are council members actually implying these 2 reasons should be equally respected? One is to prevent real trauma to human beings. The other seeks to protect an inanimate object that harms the BIPOC community. And you really need a discussion for that. So I'd like to spotlight the administration now, city council and the mayor. You have the ability to stop subtle racism in Monroe. You don't need to host complex debates, use up resources of local institutions. You can simply do the right thing and end subtle oppression of minority communities. Because in this situation, you are the gatekeepers, and therefore you are fully responsible in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Clerk Treasurer? I see no other hands.
I don't either.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Germaini. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for all the discussion this evening, and everybody stay safe, healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Night.